All right, we'll go ahead and get started. 2 o'clock for us Central, right on the dot. Mic check. Everybody hear me? All good still? Okay, great. Awesome. Well, thank you everybody for joining us today. I'm Kyle Smith. I'm with Supplied Energy, and today we welcome HomeGrid, Spencer from HomeGrid actually, to present for us and tell us a little bit about the HomeGrid storage solution. So, like I said, I'm Kyle Smith, and then also on our outside sales team is Harrison Buck, and then Christian Spencerson, backwards, Spencer from HomeGrid as well.
Thanks for having me on.
Went a little dyslexic there this afternoon, so you can't even get the time of day right. All right, so this is a little bit about our team. Here hosting today is Mallory and Valerie as well. And we're located in Austin, Catoosa, Greenville, and Newnan. And those are basically Austin Metro, Tulsa Metro, St. Louis Metro, and then Atlanta Metro as well. So a little bit about us. If you joined the webinar from last time with Savant, you learned a little bit about our services and a lot of what we do. We like to get very involved as much as we can. We want to be behind the curtain company and help our customers, installers, as much as we possibly can. So we serve installers, developers, loopers, that's on the geothermal side, home and building owners, electric utilities, builders, architects, engineers. And what we're looking to do as a company, we are a wholesale distributor, and we want to be able to offer projects a complete electrification package. And we do that through training. We offer design services. We also offer retail sales support, pipe fabrication, feasibility studies, as well as planning. So those areas, those product categories, in today's session, we're within our power products segment. We also have a complete side of our company that is on the heating and cooling, from mini splits and geothermal side, air source products, energy monitoring and load management, and the Savant products that we talked about last week actually pull into the load management side of this, and with communicating directly to HomeGrid and Solark. And then we also do water heating and then piping and fabrication as well for energy transfer. So we do that in 4 steps. We tighten the envelope. We heat and cool with an electric source, preferably not what I call a toaster, electric heat strips, but a air source heat pump or a ground source heat pump. We generate power, and then we store that power for use at a separate time. So we use that to control the complete envelope of a home, from keeping it as tight as we possibly can, shifting the demand, and using our products to help a consumer be connected to the grid, but yet also offering energy independence. So a little bit about those 4 steps. Same house that's behind Harrison there, but this home has geothermal, energy monitoring. It's generating its own power. It's got a super tight envelope, and this home is all electric and is on, actually this one's in Illinois on Ameren, and this one's also a net zero home as well. So just a little bit about the different segments of what we do and how they all tie together. So from here, I want to give it over to Spencer after this slide. I forgot about this one, I apologize. But this is a home we did actually with HomeGrid, Solark, actually a 15 kW Solark, and we had 200 amps of pass through it. So this home has geothermal for ground source heat pump. It now has a 5-stack HomeGrid. Homeowners decided to add a little bit more. It has a Savant power setup to it, and also an EV charger. So with a 200 amp service with HomeGrid, Solark, and Savant, we're able to manage the loads of this house and use the utility as little as possible. All right, now we got to switch over to you, Spencer, hang on a second.
Excellent. Okay, I'll share my screen. You can see it, right? So I'll go over a little bit about our company. We were acquired by Lithion, which is a global battery manufacturer. We have locations around the world, and we're shifting a lot of the manufacturing back to the US. So we, on our residential and commercial division, we're planning on having the assembly done in the US in the next 12 months, and then we're building a large prismatic cell factory over the course of the next 3 years. So we'll be one of the first, if not the first, prismatic cell lithium iron phosphate manufacturers. So these cells are the tier 1 automotive grade prismatic cells, and what that means is it's the same cell they use in electric vehicles. Tesla has announced they're shifting to these cells. They really are the best cells for this application. Our warehouses are over in Henderson, Nevada. That's where our HQ is. But our team is kind of spread around the country. I'm based out of Utah. We do batteries on military contracts. We do a lot of the Zamboni and forklift batteries, buses, a lot of medical grade equipment. I think my favorite is one of our applications. We have like Disney rides, but I love the Boston Dynamics robots. We do the batteries on those. And then what I'm going to focus on today is on the residential side. So this is our HomeGrid line. I'm going to go into details about this product, but essentially we feel that this product gives you the most versatility as far as customizing it for the project. You can change it to whatever size you need for the project, but it also has the highest output in the market. So it's anywhere from 3 to 4 times what other batteries are able to produce. What that means for you and for your customers is that you can power the entire home rather than just fridge and lights. The way that it's able to do that is these batteries can do 15 kilowatts continuous with 24 kilowatts surge, which matches perfectly now, as Kyle mentioned, the Solarc 15K, which also is able to hit those same specs, which is 15 kilowatts continuous. And then on that surge for 10 seconds, the battery is 500 amps DC, but the Solarc's 24 kilowatts on the surge. And then, as Kyle mentioned, it has the Solarc 15K has a 200 amp pass through. So instead of using before with the 12K, they had a 60 amp breaker. Now you can actually put it in between in a lot of states, unless you have to do a line side tap. But in a lot of states, you can install the 15K in between the meter and the main panel. And so we can actually do full home backup. And then as you see here, you can just stack up as many batteries, as many modules as you need for the project. This is extremely modular. So each of these Legos, these little white modules, is 4.8 kilowatt hours. And you can stack them vertically 8 tall to get 38.4 kilowatt hours. And then you can run them in parallel 15 deep. So I'll show you what that looks like. But essentially, we're able to do luxury homes in small commercial projects with this unit up to 576 kilowatt hours. I'll show some photos of what this looks like. So these are indoor and outdoor. It's IP55, so it's waterproof. But you can't have it in direct sunlight. Lithium iron phosphate handles a wide range of temperatures, but you don't want batteries in direct sunlight. So this is one. We powered an entire island over in the Bahamas. And so yeah, we can run them in parallel to whatever capacity you need and whatever output you need. Something to note is if you need to increase the output beyond 15 kilowatts, it's additive. So you can, as long as you have a second BMS. So on this one, you can see they're not doing 8 tall, they're doing 5 stacks because they wanted more output. So they did, on this one, I believe it was 10. Let's see what they got. They got actually 12, I believe, in there, 12 5 stacks, because If you add a second stack to the first stack, it goes from 15 kilowatts continuous to 30 kilowatts and so forth. And then you can see they have the solar in there as well. So you can use this for smaller projects. If you're looking for on the smaller end, using 2 of them, you can get that 9.6 kilowatt hours. Or as you're selling it to the homeowner, if you feel like cost is a problem, you can go on the smaller end. If you feel like they want more backup, you can easily upgrade it. So here's a couple more. One really big benefit for us as well is that we have significant inventory. Our financial partners are TriWest and Coke. So we were able to get about 20, so 2,000 of these 20 kilowatt hour batteries. So in Henderson, Nevada, our shipping times are almost for any size of order. We can usually ship it in about 3 days. And then I'll go over this as well. Here's just a couple of other units I have. But I'm going to share my screen on, I'm going to change it to the website. So the website's a really great resource for you. It's homegridenergy.com. So you can go here. I'm going to show you a quick video on what it looks like on the install side. Like I mentioned, they're just stackable Legos. There's no wiring on the side. All of the comms and powers through a male-female busing. The commissioning takes 5 to 10 minutes, and it takes 5 to 10 minutes to stack these. So full install time on the battery for just the battery side is usually sub 1 hour. And we're having, our large install partners are doing 2 to 3 of these projects a day. It's incredibly simple. And you can, we don't have any university or class you need to go through to get certified for this. You can send this to your installers, and within 5 minutes, 10 minutes of watching a couple of our videos, they should feel totally confident.
I don't know if anybody else caught on, but I've seen, I'll call it your competitors in the space on like a 18, 20 kWh battery, where they weren't lifting them in there by hand. It was way more than that. So a boom to the basement or whatever it may be.
Yeah, that's interesting, because it's not only with a lot of the other batteries on the market, it's difficult to move them on the property, but it's also difficult to get them to the property. I mean, they're hundreds of pounds. So it's a very cumbersome task with other products to get them to the site. And then if you need to get them downstairs, I've seen, Egyptian pulleys that people have rigged up to get them downstairs. Whereas with this, it's very simple. 2 guys can walk around. Each module is about 110 pounds. So 2 guys can easily handle it. And then the modularity allows you to, stack it to whatever size you need. And then, we have great integrations with Solar and Savant. The smart energy package really gives the homeowner. So if you look at the Savant system, it gives the homeowner a great user interface. The companion modules are by far the best load management system on the market. It's helping you through permitting. When you're doing full home backup, usually you do need some level of load management. And instead of spending $3,000 on a load management system, Savant, you can usually get a really great price point for getting that load management and being able to do the full home microgrid. And then, with the Solar 15K, we upgraded our battery to match that 15K, so it really does allow for full home backup. Here's our sizing tool. When you're working with a customer, you can just go on here. It's just a recommendation, but let's say at 1,500 kilowatt hours for their highest month, you're going to take whatever month has the highest use. So usually July or August, you put that in there, and this is the recommended size. What I'm seeing is usually they're going to go with this middle one. Yeah, again, if cost is a problem, just go down. You can downsell it, and if they're very excited and want to go bigger, you can easily upsell it, get to that 19.2 kilowatt hour. But usually with our batteries, we're seeing if you're doing 100%, if you're selling, let's say you're selling 100% offset for solar is going to cover anywhere from half to 2/3 of the consumption for the homeowner. And then you just need to size the battery for, the other half for the evening of the consumption. So anywhere from 1/3 of the consumption to half of the consumption should make it so they really are not drawing from the grid. And that's where batteries are really going, is as this webinar is labeled, keeping the power on site. You're really not drawing from the grid. You're using your own power and creating that ecosystem where the grid does become plan B. So it's not only just for emergencies. A lot of our customers are shifting away from kind of an old school approach, which is using a generator, to this, where the homeowner is creating that whole home microgrid. It's incredibly simple. If you have any questions while you're going through it, I've got a great team that can help. They're a great resource for helping size projects, or if you need to go over, if you have any objections, my team can help work through those problems. We have people around the country, so please reach out to us and we can work through those issues. I think just a couple of key things to mention about HomeGrid would be, so with lithium iron phosphate, I'm sure most of you know this, but it's the chemistry that a lot of other manufacturers are shifting to. If you look at Generac, LG, and Tesla, they use the cobalt nickel batteries, but with a really high thermal runaway, they've run into a lot of issues. LG had a big recall, which has kind of pulled them out of the market temporarily. And they were having a lot of home fires. So lithium iron phosphate, there's no thermal runaway. It's a much safer, more stable chemistry, but it'll also last twice as long. With home consumption, the cycling can be variable. Some days you're going to draw a lot more than others. And with lithium iron phosphate, there's a lot less degradation with variable cycling. And you can also use the entire battery. We have 100% depth of discharge. So there's with significantly less degradation and more capacity to usable, you're really getting a lot more bang for buck. These things will last usually about 7,000 cycles. We're anticipating 15 to 20 years on that front. Yeah, does anybody have any questions on the battery side? Throw it in the Q&A if you do.
I'll throw some ammunition at you. So let's go over to maybe after we get some questions in, we can answer those first, or whatever order you want to do it. But paired with our inverter, especially, I'm a Solar fan. So especially with maybe the 12, but definitely the 15, and the starting amps that we get DC, or the surge amps that we get out of the battery. What does that give us from whole home perspective? And we talked about heating and cooling as part of another part of what we do. What can we expect when we couple those together for being able to provide amperage to the whole home?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, with the 15K, it's 200 amp pass through, but obviously that's not coming from the battery. You're going to get about 60 amps from the battery on the AC, but then you can draw from the grid or from solar. It can pull from any source. And that'll be so you're getting, it's 24 kilowatt from the battery on the surge for 10 seconds. So starting amps, if you need it, on an on-grid situation, you can get the full 200 amp pass through from that 15K. If that makes sense.
Gotcha.
We do have one question I see in the chat, and it's asking about a warranty. Do you speak to that?
Yeah. So on the warranty side, we have a really great, RMA process. If we get to there, if one of the modules goes down, the batteries are run in parallel, so the whole battery won't shut down. It'll just be that one module. It's a 10-year warranty with 4,000 cycles. And then if we do need to replace a module, if we can't troubleshoot it and fix it, we'll just swap it out for you. If it was the installer who messed up the system, then that'll be on them. And then if it's if it's a product issue, product defect, we'll send you out. Usually it'll be a like new module.
What about cycles and years? I guess just
10-year, 4,000 cycle. Yeah, so 4,000 cycles, full cycles, and then a 10-year on it.
And then just cover back what you said earlier, not warranty, but expected life cycle would be what we're saying, 1720. Is that what we said?
Yeah, they're anticipating 7,000 to 8,000 cycles on these when they did the halt testing on them. They were, so what that translates for your customer is, as long as it's in the right environment, you can definitely get 15 to 20 years out of these. If it's in too hot of an environment, there will be degradation. So that's why we recommend not putting it in direct sunlight. It will last a lot longer. The best areas will be garage, and ideally even maybe a basement. But like on mine, I have it in the basement. It's a bit more work, but they will last a lot longer.
Right on. Well, that's not that big a deal, especially, since it's not so much to carry modules down the stairs. For our perspective, shipping them's much easier as well. So from our perspective, we have to have them two modules per BMS at a minimum, right? And we talked about that earlier. And then we can stack up to was it 8?
8 vertically, 38.4 kilowatt hours, and then you can run them in parallel 15 deep.
What were you saying on the BMS? I did miss that. That was something new that I had heard for the first time. The BMS was there something else on ratings or something that you would want multiple BMS instead of saying like 8 stack?
Once you get to 4 modules, you've capped out the output on the battery at that 15 kilowatts continuous. But if you add a second BMS or third or onward, it's additive. And so it'll go from that 15, 30, 45, and you can increase the output. So let's say you had a customer that wanted 40 kilowatt hours, but they wanted 30 kilowatts continuous. You could just do 2 4 stacks really easily.
Okay, right on.
Spencer, could you touch on briefly what it looks like from a homeowner's perspective or an installer perspective for firmware updates on the HomeGrid? What is that looking like?
Yeah, so we have these units called skyboxes. For any of our units out in the field, we've been sending them out to our existing customers, and all new units are including a skybox, and it's essentially similar to the Wi-Fi dongle that the Solark has. With these batteries, we're not going to be pushing firmware updates to the homeowners because there could be power outages. But on that, we have an app that we just developed, and they'll be able to. It's a little bit more manual right now to update the firmware process, but within the next month or so, the homeowner can hop on that app, which we'll do a full integration in with, the Savant interface, and they can just press update and update their own firmware as they come in. Yeah, it's a great question. Okay, we've got another. This may be more for Solar. This is from Joshua Flores. This may be more for Solar, but I'll see if you can answer. In a grid power outage, can you have multiple inverters and batteries run the home if sized appropriately? Absolutely. Yep. The Solar claims it's a 5 millisecond transfer time. So if the power shuts off within really one sine wave, the inverters will island and it will power the whole home. Usually it has less to do with capacity as it does output. And that's where this battery is significantly better than others on the market. You know, Tesla has 5 kilowatts continuous, Enphase per battery is about 3.8. So they don't have enough output unless you stack a lot of them to power the whole home. So if you turn on multiple large devices, it would trip the system and everything would shut off. Whereas this has the capability really to power your whole home. And especially with the smart load management system with Savant, with a single stack of batteries and a 15K, most homes will have full home off-grid, islanding capability. But on a lot of the projects, our installers are using critical load panels. So I've had it on my house when the power shut off. None of the lights even flickered, and everything was working.
I'm excited about this, and I shouldn't be as excited, but just not to have to reset the clocks sounds pretty good to me.
Yeah.
And it's good for your electronics and everything else in the home as well. So I mean, not to steal the glory away from you, but kind of like what Josh was saying about on the Solar side. But now that they have the 15 kW, now we have a HomeGrid accessible to us, and now Savant Power being able to bring in there. It's like that. Really, it's like 3 companies are working very closely together in harmony and communication to be able to give us complete home backup. And it's an awesome system from the house that we had up there earlier. It truly puts the control in the homeowner's hands. So I'm going to ask some more questions, I guess, still on the 2-stack versus a 4-stack. And we were talking about, what would be the limitations? Because, at first my eyes were, I was excited about it because for a 2-stack, because that's basically 10 kilowatt hours. But then the numbers where I was seeing, I think it was on surge capacity with the 4 was the optimal size. Could you speak a little bit to sizing for that reason, back to that slide or back to that spec sheet?
Yeah, here's the spec sheet you can find on the website. So all the spec sheets are on there. So for the stack unit, this is the breakdown. So it has very high output, even with the 2 modules, with that 9.6 kilowatt. So with the 12K only has 9 kilowatt continuous anyways. So if you're going to be using a 12K, the 2 module battery is higher than that. But if you're going to be using the 15K, you really want to be getting up to the 3-4 module range to take full advantage of that. After the 4 modules, it levels off at 15 kilowatts continuous. And here's, the 24 kilowatt surge is very important. As far as sizing it, yeah, so I would just take, the average home consumes about 30 kilowatt hours a day. I would say half of that will be covered by solar. So you're really wanting 15 kilowatt hours from the battery. So you want at least the 14.4, and then usually the 19.2 is what we're seeing. So I would just account for anywhere from a third to a half of the daily consumption from the homeowner, average daily consumption, and that's a great sizing method for the battery.
Okay, next curveball. What about you might find this on the spec sheet, but what about winter outdoor conditions? So we spoke a little bit about not letting it too hot, but what about getting too cold?
Yeah, the battery will start throttling. What you can damage lithium batteries on the charging with cold, so it will start throttling at it's about 50 degrees Fahrenheit, it'll start tearing down as far as charging. To account for this, we now have heating strips. If you need a cold weather unit, it's a little bit more, but it's not that much more. It's about $100 more roughly. For the cold weather stack units, but the modules will have heating strips built in. We got the UL on it. It's similar to terrarium heating strips. There's not a lot of self-consumption. There's a little bit, but it'll maintain the batteries at 5 degrees Celsius and can be used in any, cold weather climate.
Oh, really? So is that on, or what product is that on? Is that like
the stack unit?
Okay.
It's just the cold, yeah, it's a different SKU. It's just the cold weather stack.
Okay. Well, I learned something today. Gotcha.
And then we have, here, let me make sure my screen's being shared right. We have, while we're on that, different with the stack unit on larger projects, we've got this power cube, and we can do 4 full stacks in there. So it's 150 plus kilowatt hours. And then we can prefab up to 3 inverters on there. Usually it's going to be the Solark or Schneider. It's what we've seen, but we can prefab inverters on the side. So with 3 15Ks, you're getting 45 kilowatts continuous, and then 150 plus kilowatt hours built in. But it's modular. You can do whatever size you want. And these we're using a lot for farms, luxury homes, small commercial sites. And then, we've got the integrated top for the Solark. So we're going to be doing this all in white. I think it'll be a cleaner look. So like the BMS and base will be in white as well. And then we'll get rid of these logos right here. So it'll be a really clean looking unit. So for a lot of homeowners where they just want it to blend in, I think that's a great option. And it
will that give us any installation speed as well?
Yeah. I mean, if you look at some of the installs, having to do the gutter can be a process, like on this one. Having to do gutters can add time. Doing conduit can add some time. So with the integrated unit, you're just stacking it on. It has the busing built in. We send you, full kit of cables, the 4-out cables that you need. So the install time also goes down. And then the aesthetics are great. Now, obviously, if you're going to be using multiple inverters, I wouldn't go this route usually, because then you'll have an external box out here. But if you're just doing, a 20 kilowatt hour battery with a single solar 12 or 15K, this is a great solution.
Okay, and then this is going to be a really dumb question, but why? What would be your? I guess there wouldn't be much of a stack limitation with.
You can go up to the 8 stack on this. It'll just be very tall.
Yeah.
It'll be really tall. I don't know if you have, there may be some level of, in certain jurisdictions, you might have height limitations or, some code requirement with height, but on the UL, you can go up to 8.
I'd have to get some scaffolding to work on it. Sounds good.
Yeah, exactly. And then the compact series is 5 kilowatt hour. So that works well if you're using the Solar 8K or 5K. We're seeing these used for condos and smaller projects. Couple of questions we get, with the electric vehicle. I'm presenting I'm one of the panelists this weekend at Fully Charged, the electrical vehicle show in San Diego. And, there I was getting some of the pre-questions they're asking, okay, so why, with some of these large electric vehicles that will have capability of doing vehicle to home powering, why would you not just power your home off of your vehicle? And it's a great question. I think that it does have its place. I think there will be some level of utilizing your vehicle storage for the home, but it kind of seems like if you have an emergency, the last thing you want is to have your vehicle be both your vehicle and your home battery. The vehicle leaves. It's kind of like back in the day when we had if you're on the internet, you know, you couldn't use your phone. You'd have to yell at them like, "Hey, get off the phone! I'm on, I'm online." If your car leaves, then all of a sudden your power for your home would shut off. So I think what people are really looking for is a full home microgrid that works well with the EV charger, which is like a, futuristic approach, but it's happening now. You really are your own. You really can now be your own, power grid, your own microgrid, your own power station. It's kind of all built in.
I would see that. I mean, vehicle side, I see that for time of use rates, if you're home, but I mean, but like you said, the backup thing, if somebody has to leave, they're taking it with them.
Yeah. Also, even for the time of use, I think they will want a home battery for everyday, storing your solar. And because if your vehicle leaves, then you're all of a sudden drawing from the grid, which rates will be expensive. So I also, you don't want your car to be depleted. If you're powering your home, now your car doesn't have any juice. And so I think instead of it being competing, in my mind, they actually work really well together.
Right on. All right. What do we, Harrison, do we have any other questions or anything that you've been thinking about, or anybody?
Yeah, I was wondering, Spencer, if you could speak to for homeowners that have generators already and maybe they already have a solar array, where does the HomeGrid add value to that system, and how does that work? Like, from what I understand, the solar has a 2-wire start generator input.
Mm-hmm.
Where does that sort of play into?
Yeah, exactly. So with a lot of our off-grid projects, or a lot of the homeowners we work with already have a generator. One big advantage to solar is that you can use any generator. You can use a Generac or Kohler, and you can plug it into their generator input. So let's say if there was some emergency and it was very cloudy, so you weren't producing as much solar power, at that point you can supplement it with a smaller generator. Instead of a $15,000 generator, you can use even a small Honda and just supplement to make sure that it's topping off the battery and keeping the power sufficient enough to power the home.
It has to be 2 legs, correct? So it has to be L1, L2 coming out of that generator.
So for a 2-wire start, that's auto start. You can use, so that's if you want it to be an auto start, but a lot of the generators aren't auto start.
Gotcha.
You also save some cost on fueling that generator, right? So
Yeah,
if you have a
exactly.
solar array, great. Yeah.
So instead of a really expensive $15,000 generator that can do full home, but you're having to worry about fuel, you can just add it to the system and it complements it really well. And so we have on our system, we have a generator, smaller generator, but it's just for supplementing.
All right, I'm gonna start the big one. In my opinion, this is the big question for me and helpful in the sales approach. Even somebody on, just call it net metering, that's annual net metering. How are we going to sell them storage? And I'm really putting you on the hot seat here, but and I have my own opinion, but I want to hear from you on how are we going to sell storage when, as an installer or a salesperson, it may not make sense to us. We think, or just put in a generator, but actually it does make sense. And what is your 2 cents on how that works in comparison, or in the competitive nature so generator, whole home generator versus whole home storage?
If there is net metering?
Yeah, I mean, that's a worst case scenario for, on a, you wouldn't get any savings, but you get comfort and savings. I mean, generator is never going to pay for itself, ever. You're always going to fuel it. You're going to maintain it. it's not going to run when you need it to. But just in the sales approach, what is your elevator speech on
Yeah.
competing with that?
Yeah. Usually the cost, so if you're going to get solar and you're going to have to pay for an inverter anyways. So if you're going to do solar, which will always be cheaper than the grid, it always pencils out. It's cheaper than the grid across the country. So as long as you have a good roof for it and it's not blocked by trees, it'll always be cheaper than the grid. And net metering, it looks like it's being threatened across the country, so it'll be interesting to see what happens. I hope that we can keep net metering. I want the solar market to thrive. So in more and more states, it's cheaper to do solar and batteries than to use the grid. California, that's totally true, in Hawaii, and it's really starting to pencil out across the country. So over the next couple of years, it will be cheaper. Dallas just had a massive spike. Their rates just went up about 20%. And we're seeing rates going up significantly. And as more and more homeowners defect from the grid, then prices for the utilities are going to spike significantly. So what the homeowners really doing is when they get solar and batteries, is they're locking in their rate. Is when they get a 20-year loan, they're locking in their rate at their power bill every month, versus the grid where they have no idea in 10 years, even 5 years, of what their bill will look like. So that's very significant. And then versus a generator, generators just are an old school approach. You have to worry about the fuel aspect of it. So instead of having a full home microgrid where you really power everything every day, it's extremely reliable. No maintenance. A lot of these generators, you have to pay for an annual maintenance fee. I know when our power shut off, when we had just a generator, I had to fix it just to get it going. Whereas a battery and solar will be working for you every day. So when there is an emergency, it'll be operating correctly. And the noise, the exhaust, it's just an older approach. This is definitely what's most homeowners are going to be using. And you're seeing the utilities getting ahead of it. They know this is the direction that everyone's going.
Sorry, I had to mute myself there. I completely agree. And it's just something that's been running through my head a lot on, making sure you're offering a consumer the best approach, the most comfortable approach. And it's coming more and more. And even as far as Supplied Energy goes, we were looking at generators being a part of our sales structure or offering. And it still partially is, but it's almost like one of those things we shouldn't even get started in it, just because our storage sales are increasing so rapidly. So anyway, I just wanted to see, put you on the hot seat again on that one. If anybody else have any questions? We should have stuck this slide up a little while ago. As we depart here, we'll give you your day back. And any other questions, closing statements? Spencer, or anything there?
No, yeah, we definitely would love to do a full training with your team, and even your customers. I have installers and sales groups call me all the time while they're with a customer, and my team gets it all the time. So we'll help work through those on site.
Yeah, I can't say with the projects we've been a part of, just being followed up with after you make your call is pretty big. So may not have needed any more technical support, but just hearing from somebody just to make sure we were taken care of was stellar. So join us in a couple of weeks. We haven't set a date yet, but we're going to do our next session with Solar. Last week we recorded our session with Savant Power, and so we had Spencer today with HomeGrid. And then in a couple weeks, probably that last week of September, we'll be doing a presentation with Solar. And so for quotes, questions about virtually anything that we can help with at Supplied Energy, please call us or email us at support@suppliedenergy.com. And we'd love to put together a design, bill of materials, and help as much as we possibly can on a project for you. So everybody have a great rest of your week, short week, and talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Spencer. Thanks, Kyle.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody, for joining today.
Thank you.